Oh, it says setting up your meeting. Haven't started recording on the, there we go. All right, guys, looks like we are live and ready to go. This is episode 3 of the American Dreamin' web show, talking about real estate and finance usually, but right now we're focused a lot on COVID-19. So today we have some special guests with us. I don't have the, let me go to that window so y'all can see that. Let me get rid of that menu. There we go. All right, so it's very unprofessional, but you know, it's the first time that live is working. So, all right, here we go. On the show tonight, we have myself, the host, Jeff Tufford from Epic Mortgage Group. I've done mortgages since 2003, and I've ran Epic Mortgage since 2013. We also have Aaron Duggins. He is a U.S. citizen over in Sweden. He's lived and worked in several different places around the world. Right now, he's currently in Stockholm, Sweden, so he'll tell us a little bit about that. And they're handling things a little bit differently than everybody else. And so that's very interesting to hear how it's going over there. And then we also have Stephan Brochu. He's from Remax Grande in Grand Blanc, Michigan. And he runs the Remax, the Brochu real estate team there at Remax. And he's done that for many years as well. Fun fact, I always like to point this out. We have a local hockey team we used to have here. A minor league hockey team, the Flint Generals. Before that, it was the Bulldogs, and before that, it was the Generals, and before that, it was the Spirit. But the second coming of the Generals, they did pretty well, and Stephan was the captain of the team and led them to the Colonial Cup, right? And
right, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, it was good times around here back in those days, and he got in a little in the NHL, a little action there. But he's got a perspective of the real estate market, but also family and friends up in Canada and how they're doing things up there. So thank you guys for joining me. We will switch back to the regular view. We can see your guys' nice looking faces. All right, first we'll start with Stephan. We read an article. I read one. I sent to you the same article that talked about how some predict the housing market is going to be basically like a rocket sitting on a launch pad ready to take off as soon as things are lifted. It might be there might be a pretty heavy hot house market. What do you think about that?
At this point, as of today, I tend to agree. And the reason for that are twofold. We're getting many calls still at this point from people looking for houses. It's amazing. So we hear a lot about virtual showings nowadays because we are not allowed as real estate agents to go in houses, as you know. So we can do virtual showings. So once we're able to actually go in the house and show the potential buyers, I think there are quite a few people that are waiting and ready to pull the trigger. And the second part is I have many folks because of work or whatever reasons, they're ready to list. And we're just waiting and trying to time it with the end of the lockdown in Michigan. So I know on a personal note, I have quite a few listings ready to hit the market. So most people feel that we have a shortage and of inventory, as you know, but I believe that will change. And the second we have a date for the end of the lockdown, that we get a good feel on the virus, obviously, and then we have it somewhat contained, and then I think we're going to have many homes hitting the market and people are looking. So as long as the finances are in good shape, I think we'll be good.
Good. So Aaron, in America, the housing market is like one of the pillars of the whole economy. So we view, obviously you're familiar since you're from here, but we view the economy as being, you know, basically that's one of those things that if it's not going well, the whole economy is going poorly, and vice versa. So does that play a similar part in Sweden?
What we've seen right now is a lot of the businesses are still open. There have been very few, if any, closures right now. So folks are still employed. People are still spending money. Folks haven't been really laid off. Of course, it's affecting the airline industry. They're restricting their flights now back and forth between other countries in Europe. as well as the United States. They haven't totally eliminated them yet, but they've reduced the number of flights. Right now, the impression I'm getting from some of the friends that I know here is the Swedish government's doing as much as they can right now to keep things operational and to keep the economy moving, to keep folks employed, et cetera, so that they can do the best they can to minimize the impact this is having on their economy here in Sweden.
Yeah, that's one thing I read, that they've avoided doing the full isolation and economic ruin because of it. The numbers in America are astounding as far as the unemployment numbers that are coming out, like huge numbers that we haven't seen before, which is causing a big impact on the mortgage market, because there's fears that while someone on paper looks like a good candidate, there's a good chance that they're either going to be unemployed soon or they'll feel the effects of that one way or another. So it is interesting what they've done in Sweden. They pretty much not basically taken over their citizens' lives and told them exactly what to do. Tell us about that.
So the Swedish government's done a really good job offering guidelines for citizens here to follow in the event that they have traveled in the last 14 days, if they've been exposed to someone who has a confirmed case, if they're not feeling well, et cetera. And the mindset that somebody could be an asymptomatic carrier is gaining traction, and it's becoming more widely understood and more widely appreciated right now. But right now, a lot of the governmental guidelines are, for instance, businesses should do the following, citizens should do this or should refrain from doing that. But they're really relying on an individual's common sense and responsibility and maturity to make the right decision based on guidelines, based on what they know about themselves, where they've been, and with whom they've been exposed.
So what kind of businesses are affected, like being shut down or having to be restricted? Because there is a restriction on numbers of people, correct?
Right now, the restriction for travel pertains more to people coming inside the Swedish territory from outside of Sweden. And the latest information I saw was the only folks being permitted to come back into Sweden were Swedish citizens or residents, US diplomats, or those seeking asylum. If you didn't fit into one of those categories, the way I understand it is it's very, very difficult to get back in, if possible at all. So with that, you have fewer daily flights required between Sweden and other European countries, Sweden and the US, et cetera, because there just aren't nearly as many customers flying, and you've got to make it count when you're burning up all of that fuel and you're paying for flight attendants, maintenance, pilots, et cetera.
Okay, so what about like restaurants, and nightclubs and entertainment venues and sports? How's that all affected? Because it's 50 people max, right?
Right. Well, right now, they're really restricting the number of folks in mass gatherings. I don't have the current number with me right here in front of me. Bars, nightclubs, restaurants are still open, but they're not nearly as populated as they were 8 weeks ago. There are much fewer people out than there were 2 months ago. And even walking down the street on a Friday night or a Saturday night, you don't see nearly as many folks here as I've seen in the past. So people, I think, are really internalizing it. They're taking it seriously. They're trying to do their best to be responsible with the information they have. And just like in the United States and several of these other countries, we're kind of playing this by ear. A lot of countries are doing the best they can with the information they have. But it seems like almost weekly, we're learning something new about the virus, how it spreads, what's effective for containing it, and what's not effective for containing it. So as that information becomes more publicly available, as it becomes validated, then I think a lot of countries around the world are making changes as they can.
Okay, but they are not like there was a lot of knee-jerk reaction looking at Italy. A lot of countries based all their stuff not on what was going on at their, inside their borders, but what they saw in Italy. And it doesn't seem like Sweden, even though they're in close proximity, they haven't done that. Is there people in the populace that are talking negatively about those decisions, or are they just like accepting that, hey, we're free to do our own thing as adults?
I think there's an appreciation here when people are allowed to make decisions that they know is in their best interest. And Swedes in general are very socially responsible people, whether it's the environment or it's finance and business, or it's just taking care of one another when there's a time of need. Swedes are very socially responsible individuals. So as a country, as a culture, I think their day-to-day actions and interactions are kind of predicated upon their socially responsible history. So I think there's probably an appreciation among the Swedes that they're not being required to follow a set of guidelines or a set of mandates, but rather they're being encouraged to follow set guidelines, and they're taking it seriously.
Okay. Stephan, what have you heard about from your family and friends? Tell us where you were from originally before you came over here, and then tell us what you're hearing from those folks about what's going on back home.
Okay, well, I'm from Sherbrooke, Quebec, which is about an hour to an hour and a half drive east of Montreal. It's only about, 15, 20 miles from the Vermont border. So I've spoken to my parents, which are, they're in their 80s. So they're definitely been confined. Over there, the big emphasis is on 65-year-olds and over to be on full lockdown. So that's definitely been the case for them. And it seems to be hitting the nursing homes the hardest. And they have a shortage of workers for those types of, venues, if you want. So, but they're basically on the same kind of lockdown as we are. Their numbers and their curve and hitting the peak, they're basically in lockstep with what we're hearing from our local governments.
Have they talked about the hospital systems and having the same kind of problems that we've heard of, with not enough ventilators, not enough protective equipment, not enough this and that, and you can comment to us about groceries and toilet paper up there?
I don't know about the hospital situation. Bear in mind, I speak French when I speak to my mom and dad, and we don't go into those particulars. All I know for one thing, though, is when they go to the grocery store, they have a hand washing station before you walk in the actual grocery store. And they only allow so many people in the grocery store. So that is one thing I know for a fact is different than what we have here. So my mom says, I'll go there, you have to wash your hands in front of a person, a designated person, and then you go in. So they have a line outside, before you get to go in.
Okay, well, that's definitely feels like what I experienced recently when I had to go to the grocery store myself and stand out and wait and be let in one at a time, and so it's a little wild.
Oh, really? Okay, where was that?
I think it was Walmart. I can't remember. I've only been to like two places since this whole thing. It's probably should be easier to remember, but I think I've been to Meijer and Walmart both two different times. So,
Okay.
and I know I saw the Home Depot is doing the same thing too, where they've got X's and people you have to wait and everything. So
Sure.
it's a little wild. So Aaron, what do you think as politically speaking, they're considered socialist as a country, correct, over there in Sweden?
They've got a lot of programs that support that, yeah.
Okay. So is there anything that would make their response different based on their economic structure than it is here? As far as everyone here, we got a lot of self-employed folks. We got a lot of people that if they don't get them, if they don't have their money coming in from their job, they have nothing. So we require to do the stimulus thing, where a socialist country, I would guess, they would already have some sort of floor that they'd be able to be propped up a little bit automatically without having to worry about losing their home and things like that if they were to go into some kind of economic shutdown. Is that accurate?
There are a lot of unemployment benefits, I guess you could say, or entitlements here that we don't have in the United States. But I can't speak intelligently to how that's impacting their response to the virus, or what the negative repercussions would be if they were to close down more businesses or the unemployment rate were to rise, only because I don't have that information here in front of me.
And have we seen people being more careful, do you think, as far as like one article I read, the guy who runs a beauty shop, or a barber shop, and I think his wife runs a beauty shop, did say that he's seeing less people. They're trying to be as clean as possible, but there are some people still feeling economic fallout from even from just the social responsibility that their people are showing by not going out as much. Is that something you would say is actually happening?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, excuse me, like I was saying earlier about the pubs, the restaurants, the bars, the nightclubs, they're seeing less foot traffic at this time. Whether it's folks who are just being cautious because they don't want to take the risk for an inadvertent exposure, or it's folks who are sick altogether and they just know better than to go out and they have more sense than that. There's probably a lot of factors that are playing into it right now. And it doesn't take a super smart individual to realize that if you have fewer customers, you're making less money. If you make less money, you've got less money to pay your staff, to pay for your overhead, et cetera. So I think probably in the coming months, we'll see what the impact is on local businesses here.
All right, excellent. Stephan, you spoke of Canada. Actually, let me stay with you, Aaron. I asked him about the Canadian health system. So how is the Swedish health system set up? Is it similar to Canada's where there's free coverage for all or something like that?
Right. There's still an option for private coverage, and some people who have really well-paying jobs allow for private coverage as a supplement to their government provided insurance. And there's some more freedom and some more leeway with that. But the Swedish guidance right now is very similar to the US guidance when it comes to healthcare response to COVID-19, which is if you're feeling sick or you're not sure if you're well, don't go to your doctor right away. Call your doctor, pursue telemedicine, telehealth, et cetera. Look at options to get diagnoses over the phone, recommendations over the phone, as opposed to coming into a health clinic or a hospital and infecting several people at one time. Okay,
now you're in Stockholm. Is that the biggest city in Sweden?
Yeah, this is the capital city of Sweden.
Yes, I knew that. So it should have it's got the biggest population as well.
Yeah, I believe it does. Stockholm in general. Yeah, not necessarily the city center, but Stockholm proper.
So have you heard anything about any overrunning of the hospitals there as far as same thing we're experiencing in the US? I mean, some hospitals I hear nurses and people are being sent home and told we don't have enough patients. But in a lot of cities, they're working. I know a guy here that's working. He would have been a guest tonight, except he's working like 8 12-hour shifts in a row. So there are some people where they just can't keep enough staff and they don't have enough equipment to do the job. Have you heard of any of that stuff going on in Sweden?
I haven't heard that. And right now, it looks like their hospital capacity is sufficient to cover those who are confirmed sick with COVID-19 right now. So they've got the capacity to take care of it. But by and large, folks are staying home. They're staying away from public. They're teleworking. They're self-isolating and self-quarantining if there's a suspicion that they may be sick.
All right. Well, we won't keep it too much longer. I know it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning there. I appreciate your being on. Stephan, just going back to the first question, and we'll end with this with a couple final words. But do you think folks should be ready for that push with real estate? Should they list their house? The article I read said the gentleman was a broker, and he said they should list their house because as people are stuck inside, they're online looking at stuff and they might fall in love with the house. And as soon as it's ready to be seen, that house might get a lot of listings or a lot of showings scheduled. Is that something that you recommend? I mean, it's hard to put a listing out there without, I know you use professional photography. So for you to tell a seller, take a bunch of pictures and send them to me and I'll put it online, you might be a little leery of that, but what are your thoughts about that?
That's exactly it. Like we're not allowed to go in the home at this point. So we would have to use pictures from the homeowner. But I have some homes that are becoming empty as we speak. The owners are being moved out of state for work, for example. So we're going to probably plan pictures 7 to 10 days ahead of the end of the lockdown. And then we're going to go active at that point so people can view them, and we'll do a virtual tour possibly. And then they can really hopefully fall in love. And then once they can get out and look at houses, it'll be a quick adjustment. So my personal feeling on the whole situation is it's also basically hopeful, but I'm thinking that at this point it's not like 2009, which was a full-on crash and the banks had no liquidity. The banks are, they're flush with cash. I'm just hoping basically we're hitting the pause button and everything is being paused for a month or two, and then we can just push play again, and then we can slowly get back in the swing of things as far as real estate is concerned. We're seeing some positive signs of the stock market now, so that should relieve a lot of people's basically hard feelings right now looking at their stock holdings and such, right? So I think we'll be fine. Maybe I'm overly optimistic, but we will know a lot more within the next 2 weeks is the way I look at it.
Well, the concern I have with the financing side is that these servicers that are, servicing these, taking the payments is what servicing is. You take the payments and you make the payments. You take the payments from the people, you make them to the agency or the company that has the actual investment part of the transaction, which a lot of government loans are Ginnie Mae, which is similar to Fannie Mae. Ginnie Mae buys basically government mortgage-backed securities. So if FHA says, you don't have to make payments, Ginnie Mae still has a right to get their money. So you got a servicer that is not getting money from a customer. As of right now, they're still required to make their payments. So the government hopefully will step up and give them a loan so that they can make those payments, or else the investors that are holding that investment hopefully will pass on don't make the payment to us. I think whenever the government comes out and says, don't make your payments, you're okay, we're going to create this program, it's always with good intentions, but there's all these ramifications that they don't know about, or that they don't expect, that they don't make plans for. Like a servicer might say, yeah, that's fine, don't make payments, but in 4 months I have a customer who put on Facebook today that she was told she could skip 3 or 4 payments, and then when that ends, all the money is due right now. 4 payments. Like if she could if she could make that at that point, she could have made it all the way through. Like it's not like she's not. Yeah. So she's gonna get something bad on her credit. She's gonna get a foreclosure. All those things are the things I'm worried about. As long as we can stave that off, I believe that you're right, and that we will see the economy jump back out. But people have to do their best. If they can make their payment, do their best to make their payment, and that'll keep a lot of customers eligible to buy, to move up to a different house, to refinance, to do whatever they got to do. If you can make your rent payment, make it. Because I don't know if we do a rent verification on somebody before they try to buy, I don't know. There's no rule change yet that says, well, the last 12 months rent that we have to verify, it's okay if there's 3 months late, if it was during COVID-19. Like that guidance is not out there yet. So
don't you feel it's going to get there though? It has to. That would be crazy if they would not adjust.
Well, in the whole economic collapse of the 2000s, there was really zero grace and forgiveness in that stuff. So I love the good intentions, but you don't know what's behind the curtain, man. Like what's on the other side. So I'm a little bit worried. So everyone should be encouraged to do their best to make their payment as much as they can. House payment first, installment loans second, credit cards third. If you can work out deals, work them out with utility companies, work them out with insurance companies, things like that. That's who you want to work out your deals with first. If you can make some things, but not all of them. So those are my 2 cents about the housing. I think if we can do that, I think we'll be good. I think we will come out, and I'm probably going to have to tell my family I'm not going to be around that much for a while, because we're going to be getting people into houses, man. It's going to be hot and heavy, and it's going to be good, but it's going to be busy, I think. So I think, like you said, I think people should get in line and be ready to go, get pre-approved now. As soon as this is lifted, you'll be able to look at one of those houses that's kind of pre-listed and make an offer right away, and you'll be at the front of the line. That's the key, being at the front of the line for both sides, being the first sellers on the market, and the first buyers ready to go. So, All right, Aaron, I appreciate your time. Any final words for us on what anything you can apply to us from over there?
At the end of the day, all of our countries are handling this. Although there are differences and idiosyncrasies with each country with different cultures, at the end of the day, preventive measures are preventive measures. It doesn't do anybody good for mass panic or mass hysteria, but personal hygiene is important. Social distancing is important. Reducing your exits from the home for essential purposes and essential business is important. And so just everybody, as you two have talked about with the financial aspects and the mortgage aspects, we're going to recover. We're going to come back. The market's going to recover. It always has, it always does, and it always will.
All right, Stephan,
Amen.
any final words from you?
Amen. I really like what he just said. And I feel the same way. It's actually a good time to spend a lot of good quality time with the family. You have, like yourself, you have many young kids. So, you know, take advantage of that. And years from now, you'll hopefully look back and laugh about it and remember how we went through the COVID-19 and everything is just fine, down the road. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Are you out there with your daughter working on your swing? Is she showing you how
We
to do it?
yeah. We're going in the backyard, and so we're doing a lot of chipping and pitch shots and wedges, and so yeah, she'll be ready for her tournaments coming up. Hopefully, hoping for like 3 to 4 weeks from now.
Excellent. Now, Aaron, what's the weather like up there right now? Because I know you're on that side of the world. It's dark there a lot sometimes, right?
It is. You know, summertime, we have 20 plus hours of daylight during the day. Wintertime, it's just the opposite. Right now, the sun's coming up around 5:30 or so in the morning, and it's staying up till about 8 p.m. So we've got about another 6 or 7 weeks, and then we'll be in 21 hours in middle of summer. So it'll be fantastic. Sweden's a great place to visit, especially in the summer. We haven't had a whole lot of snow this year, but I think that speaks for several countries around the world. But the summer times here are just absolutely amazing. They're magical.
All
You
right,
can
well,
you can have like
I'll visit.
Yeah, you can have 3-4 rounds of golf in one day.
Yeah, and you know, it's golf is one of the cheapest things to do here. It was surprising to me.
Really?
So a lot of things in Sweden are quite expensive compared to the US dollar and what we're accustomed to in the United States and even in Canada. But golf is something here that can actually be quite affordably pursued and enjoyed.
All right, as soon as I get over there, we'll go golfing.
We might have to move.
Bring it.
All right.
All right, guys, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate your insight, your professionalism, and like you said, we're in it together. So you guys do well in all that you're going to do in the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll see you on the other side of this soon.
Sounds good, Jeff.
Cheers,
Thanks for the
everybody.
invitation.
All right, thank you guys.
See you guys.
See you.